conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes so they can keep working and keep caring for their children. We must always remember that a healthy child starts with a healthy parent. These are women who need health care now so that they can have healthy pregnancies later. These people are veterans. 66,000 veterans and their families are in the coverage gap. These people work, they build our houses, they make our food, they care for our children. Do they not deserve health care? Yes. These people are our neighbors in rural Texas whose hospitals have been closed or are in danger of closing. Texas has the highest rate of rural hospital closures in the country. At the Children's Defense Fund, we hear these stories every day. These are real healthcare needs that are not met, and it has real consequences. People lose their mothers, sisters, brothers, neighbors because of our state's inability to act. It's time to put politics aside and take care of our people, or let us do it for them. And thank you so much again for everyone who's here with us today. We have a great lineup of speakers, and we're starting with 2 of our 4 resolution authors who have filed to allow Medicaid expansion to be put on the ballot. I'd like to welcome Senator Nathan Johnson, followed by Representative Celia Israel, and then we have a number of other fantastic legislators and healthcare champions who will also be able to speak with you today, and a great lineup of other folks as well. Senator Johnson.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a little disappointed. I thought it was going to be colder. What year is this? 2019 is not 2014, right? It may be cold out, but we are not frozen in time. Because in 2014, there was a different dialogue in Texas about Medicaid, and it seems that we're still there. It is not time for us to sit around and listen to the old rhetoric of 5 years ago. This is 2019, and in the past 5 years, the passage of time have given us the lessons of experience. A lot of people like to call the lessons of experience data that we have from 5 years of dozens of other states expanding Medicaid to the benefit of their citizens, to the benefit of their businesses, to the benefit overall of their economies, of their health, and of the spirit of their populations. It's time that Texas joined the rest of the United States of America and did the same thing. Before we take such bold steps as going 37th to expand Medicaid, it is important that we have the confidence that we can do it. Some of that confidence comes from examining the experience of these other states. I see what they've done. I see their economies growing. I see their healthier populations. Do you all think we have the necessary confidence to go forward with this? Yeah! I certainly do. But confidence by itself is not enough. There's 2 other things that we as a state and as legislators and as advocates have got to have. It's humility and respect. Yeah. We're not going to take any steps until we have the humility to look at what we're doing and realize that it's not enough. We're not cutting it in the field of Medicare, of caring for our citizens. Woo! And respect. Respect for the thousands of Americans who over the past 60 years have devoted their lives to developing a system that extends health care to those who can't have it. Those people who are the architects of Medicaid, dating back to the Texan Lyndon Johnson. The respect for all the states that have already done this and their experiences. We can't stand alone. Only when you have humility and respect. I tell this to my kids when they go into their grade, their 7th grade or their 10th grade or classes. You've got to be humble enough to know that you don't quite know everything yet. And as soon as you do, you can read that book and learn. And have respect for people who've gone before you. Then, once we've acknowledged that there's a problem, once we have respect for others who have gone before us, then we can craft a solution that works for us. When we take the step. sins of failure, the things that we're missing out on, the shortcomings of not having acted yet. But also, I hope you know the virtues of taking inspired, informed action today. You know that we will pick up coverage of almost 1 million people. Did you know that 29% of the entire nation's population of people who would be picked up by Medicaid expansion, that is those in the gap, live in Texas? Whoa. By taking care of our people, we can pick up 29% of the people in the country who are left out right now. That would be something to be proud of. That's Texas pride for real. We can provide them with better care. You know that. We can do it at lower cost. We can drive economic growth. We can create jobs in sectors that we want. We can have tax savings. We can extend greater benefits in behavioral and mental health at a time of the opioid epidemic. 29% of expansion dollars nationwide have gone to people with mental health problems. We can address many of our most pressing problems by taking this important step. It won't be easy. It's difficult. But I've got confidence and faith in the people of Texas, including people at our agencies and our hospitals, physicians, administrators, insurance companies, patients, all of us. Other states can do this. We can do this too. Yeah! It is time now, because you are informed, it is time to let your legislators know that you're an informed voter, and let every other legislator in or out of your district know that you're an informed voter, and you demand that they be informed too. Because the tired old dogma, the fears, the doomsday prognostications, even the legitimate concerns, and many good people had legitimate concerns about the scary prospect of expanding Medicaid, even those have been debunked by the lessons of experience. Yeah! We cannot rest on yesterday's political inaction, because there's nothing anymore in 2019, there's nothing left standing in the way of the logical conclusion that this is what we must do now, except one thing, and that's politics. And politics is not an answer for not making progress. So go forward. I thank everybody who came here today, especially the organizers, for this idea of letting our legislatures know that it's time to pass Medicaid in Texas. And to do that, we need something fundamental. We need a hearing. I filed Senate Bill 524. As other representatives in the House, Representative Israel and Representative Busey in the House have filed their legislation identical to mine, to get a hearing first, to bring forth experts in the field, to bring forth people, and tell the state of Texas, live on camera, that this is the right thing to do. Help us get that hearing so we can put it to the voters, and the people of the state of Texas will issue the proclamation that now's the time. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. My name is Celia Israel. I'm a member of the Texas House of Representatives, and I'm pissed off. And mostly because I'm cold. But I'm joined by my colleagues, Michelle Beckley from the Carrollton area and Representative Donna Howard from the Austin area to help me collectively say thank you. Texas does have a problem. We have the largest uninsured population of both children and adults in the country, and it's only getting worse. Now, we always say with pride that everything's bigger in Texas, but I don't think this is what we had in mind. Because of our inaction, more Texas families are spending their evenings distraught and afraid, deciding whether they should go to the doctor or pay the basic bills. We have put politics before our people, and too many Texans are one medical visit away from financial disaster. Although the legislature has refused to act, everyday Texans understand the emergency that we face. 64% of Texas voters support Medicaid expansion. That's an amazing figure. I came to the legislature this session to do big things. This is a big thing. Since 2014, the Texas legislature has ignored the opportunity to give low-income Texans meaningful access to health care, all in the name of partisanship and political gains. And that's why I filed House Bill 590 and House Joint Resolution 40, which would give Texas voters the opportunity to decide whether or not to expand and adopt Medicaid. Take Arizona. Arizona expanded Medicaid in 2013, and since implementation, the uninsured rate has dramatically declined, and over 400,000 residents have gained coverage over this period. It's a little bitty state like Arizona. We're going to be kicked around by Arizona? No. Louisiana has expanded Medicaid. Arkansas has expanded Medicaid. Kentucky has expanded Medicaid. The good news is we can turn this around, and other states have the results to do it. Yes. Yes. If we don't show courage to do what's right, we need to let the voters do what's right. Believe me, this is not my ideal in how you do legislation. You elected us to come to Austin and get a job done. But we have demonstrated the lack of political strength and willingness and fortitude and steel rod in our backs to do it. So if we're not going to do it, I humbly ask that we do what Senator Johnson was suggesting and get a hearing and demonstrate the support for House Bill 590. And I will also like to introduce my colleague in the House, our another new awesome, energetic freshman, John Busey from Austin and Cedar Park. John, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Celia. How y'all doing today? It's cold out here, but with your help, we're going to fire it up inside and fight for the people of Texas. We need that help. We need your energy. My name is John Busey. I'm a freshman state representative from North Austin, representing North Austin, Cedar Park, and Western Williamson County. I first decided to run for this office because there were people in this Capitol that opposed Medicaid expansion for Texans. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could anybody be opposed to bringing $100 billion into our state's economy? How could anyone be opposed to providing nearly 1.5 million Texans with the health care they need? How could anyone be opposed to lowering all of our health insurance costs? How could anyone be opposed to saving the lives of our fellow Texans? Our tax dollars go to pay for Medicaid expansion in other states, while too many of our neighbors have to choose between getting needed health care and putting a roof over their heads, between getting needed health care and paying their bills or getting groceries. It's unacceptable that we allow this to continue. Time and time again, we have waited and watched as over the past decade, 36 other states and the District of Columbia have expanded Medicaid. They are reaping the benefits of substantial economic impact. Millions of Americans now have access to needed care, and countless lives are being saved. We've waited and watched as just last year, Idaho, Nebraska, and Utah expanded Medicaid because the people in those states voted to do it. Because in those states, we let the people vote. Yet Texas continues to stay on the sidelines. We have the worst uninsured rate in the nation. We have a reprehensible maternal mortality rate. We have failed to keep up with mental health services, and we have watched rural hospitals close left and right. I know I join all of you when I say I am tired of waiting. I'm tired of watching other states benefit from a program that we are investing in but not benefiting from ourselves. Aren't y'all tired? It's time in Texas to let the people vote for Medicaid expansion. We need your help. I thank my colleagues and I thank all of y'all. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Here's Representative Michelle Beckley, who has filed 2 Medicaid expansion bills.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Michelle Beckley, and I ran on Medicaid expansion. And the people, as a small business owner, I know the struggle small business owners have. I filed legislation to reach across the aisle so that we can take Medicaid expansion. This is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. I'm a small business owner, and when I shop for insurance for my employees, I see just how out of reach small health care is. for most people. By creating a Medicaid buy-in options for small business employees, I believe families can finally have affordable health care premiums. It is your right to have affordable premium that protects your family, and I will fight for that.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you, and you guys have a great day.
Hey, I'm Ann Dunkelberg with Center for Public Policy Priorities, and this is a short commercial break to recognize all the legislators who filed bills to advance Medicaid expansion. So we're going to starting with the resolutions to put this on the ballot. As you know, Representative Celia Israel, HJR 46 by Representative John Busey, SJR 34 by Senator Nathan Johnson, and just filed last Thursday, HJR 92 by Representative Ron Reynolds. And if he joins us, he will be stepping up to make some remarks in a little bit. You should know that another 10 bills have been filed calling for statewide or local option Medicaid expansion. Those are HB 565 by Representative Coleman, HB 590 by Celia Israel, HB 416 by Diego Bernal, HB 1210 by Michelle Beckley, HB 1913 by John Rosenthal, HB 2308 also by Michelle Beckley, and then Senate Bill 327 by Senator Alvarado, Senate Bill 524 by Senator Johnson, and Senate Bill 1321 by Senator Boris Miles. We hope we didn't miss any of the bills that were filed before Friday, and we know that more bills are likely to be filed before this coming Friday's bill deadline. We also want to give big thanks to all the authors who filed Medicaid expansion bills in past sessions in 2013, 2015, and 2017. So let's just give a huge round of applause for all of those legislative champions.
And up next, we have Dr. Rupa Nalam, an internal medicine doctor who comes to us from Houston, and then Olga Garza Kaufman from San Antonio Urban Strategies will follow her. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rupa Nalam. I'm an internal medicine doctor who practices in a large tertiary hospital in Houston, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the coverage gap. I'm not sure if everyone here is aware, but Medicaid in Texas is very difficult to obtain. Only very specific groups of severely disabled people and low-income children, seniors, and pregnant women are covered by Texas Medicaid. And even though the Affordable Care Act has improved coverage of people who make enough money to be over the federal poverty level through subsidy coverage, it was written with the expectation that states expand Medicaid to include coverage of everyone who are above 133% of the federal poverty level. Since Texas did not expand Medicaid and is in fact in litigation to throw out Medicaid expansion, low-income people are not benefiting at all from the Affordable Care Act. If they go on the health care exchanges, they have to pay the same amount for insurance as middle-income people. So they in fact have no real ability to access health care coverage using federal or state subsidies, and only have access to indigent care programs like the Harris Health System where I live in Houston, but are not readily available in rural areas. I cannot tell you how many patients I see who are transferred to our hospital from rural counties who have no insurance and have no way to help themselves. People with asthma, people with strokes, people with diabetes, people with heart transplants, liver transplants, kidney transplants. Many of their medications are prohibitively expensive, and I have no way to help them. And talk about feeling helpless when I send them out with prescriptions I think they can afford with a wish and a prayer, but I have no way of knowing if they arrive to the pharmacy only to find that they cannot. And people need more than just medicines. They need equipment, they need nursing visits, they need physical therapy. This is all expensive with insurance and completely out of reach when you don't have it. So is it any wonder that Texas is experiencing a maternal mortality crisis and mental health crises when we have the highest uninsured rate in the country? How is it acceptable that in 2017, nearly a quarter of adult Texans were uninsured and 36% of low-income people in rural counties had no coverage at all? Our rural hospitals are closing due to lack of funding of uninsured care, and it will only get worse. Why should our federal tax dollars go to states who have expanded Medicaid and reap the economic and societal benefits of improved insurance coverage of their citizens? We as Texans should expect better from our state. We deserve better from our legislators.
We do.
This is why I support the House bills and resolutions today, which would give us the power to vote for Medicaid expansion and codify ACA consumer protection into the law of Texas.
Yes.
Hey, Greg, hear us now. We want Medicaid expansion now. Hey, Greg, hear us now. We want Medicaid expansion now.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Olga Kaufman, and I am a health specialist with Urban Strategies in San Antonio, and more specifically San Antonio on the east side. At Urban Strategies, I help families navigate the healthcare system, and while their children have access to healthcare through Medicaid and CHIP, their parents do not. In our communities, many adults fall into the Medicaid gap, and sadly, I get to see the consequences up close. In my work, I have seen young mothers in the prime of their life die because of the lack of health insurance, leaving behind their children and devastated families. They are our fellow Texans, hardworking people doing their best to provide for their families. Most of them work in hourly wage jobs that do not provide many of the benefits that we take for granted, or that many of us take for granted. A living wage, paid sick leave, and most importantly, health insurance. Our policy decisions have consequences. Every day, nearly 1 million Texans go without health care insurance. When they get sick, they do not go to a doctor, they continue working. And if they develop a chronic condition such as diabetes or hypertension, they go without those doctor visits, and they go without long-term medications. They hope and pray and try to hold on until they reach that golden age of 65, when they can get Medicare. Tragically, many of them don't make it. For the sake of this 1 million uninsured Texans, I ask that we as a state take the bold steps to ensure that all Texans have access to affordable health insurance. Each day, these Texas families face a health care crisis, and we cannot wait. 1 million of our fellow Texans are depending on us. Thank you.
So my name's John Henderson, and I just moved to town from the panhandle of Texas, where this would be considered a mild, pleasant morning. So I'm happy to be with you. But I moved to town to fight for rural Texas hospitals, and it's been mentioned 4 or 5 times already, so I'll be quick. Rural hospitals are closing. We have a crisis in Texas. Texas is actually ground zero for the rural hospital closure crisis. 21 rural hospitals in Texas have closed since 2013. That's double any other state in the same time period. If something doesn't change, the hospital in Belleville, Texas will close in May, and that's just not acceptable. We've got to do better for our rural Texans. Rural Texans don't have coverage. They actually lag urban areas of the state by as much as 6 points, and they lag other states by as much as 12 points simply because of demographics. That means that rural Texans are suffering, and we can't have that. The status quo just won't work. We can do better. So I say, let the people vote. Thank you.
Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote!
The problem with height differences. Before I introduce the next speaker, I just wanted to remind people that if you looked at this chain of uninsured individuals represented, we're almost to the gate back there. Each one of these tiny people is 1,000 people who can't afford the medication they need, can't afford to go to the doctor, and are waiting for us to act. And with that reminder, I'd like to bring Dr. Jaime Estrada to introduce our next speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos días a todos.
Buenos días.
Hay que seguir luchando por Medicaid expansion in Texas. It's time for us to vote and to talk. I want to introduce one of our members of our group, Texas Doctors for Social Responsibility, Amy Vilela, who's going to say a few words.
So like you said, my name is Amy Vilela. I come not only here as a member of the Texas Doctors for Social Responsibility, but also as a mother who understands completely what's at risk, as I have paid one of the ultimate prices in losing my own daughter, my 22-year-old daughter, to our current healthcare system. And right now, Texas is at a critical moment. It has the nation's highest uninsured rate for children and adults, and it's getting worse. Because it's one of the 14 states that did not expand Medicaid, many of these low-income adults and families are unable to get the coverage they so desperately need. And Texans are paying the price. We have the highest rate of uninsured people in the nation, and this is causing us to have a delayed treatment rate which is rising, which means that Texans are delaying going to get the necessary medical treatment they so desperately need because they cannot afford it. Texas maternal rate is also one of the highest in the nation. When families should be celebrating new life, they are instead having to bury their loved ones. Many in the rural communities don't have access to care at all. And we know that Medicaid expansion would provide insurance coverage to 1.1 million more low-income Texans who cannot afford commercial insurance and are ineligible for the current Medicaid coverage offered by Texas. This would be life-changing for them. They would no longer delay treatments until it requires an emergency room visit or takes their life. Low-income pregnant women could receive the preventative care and aftercare that would make sure that they have results that make them healthier and save their lives. We could expand clinics to serve low-income communities and rural areas. The benefits are numerous, and yet our leaders are leaving the money on the table. Even as the majority of Texas voters have voiced their support of expansion. We know that health care is not a political issue, it's a human issue. This is why we are gathering today. We are here with our righteous indignation that we are seeing healthcare injustice. We are watching our loved ones, our neighbors, and our community members enduring or possibly dying because they do not have coverage. We know that one needless death is one too many, and it's time for politicians to get out of the way and do what's right for Texans. This is a matter of life and death. Expanding Medicaid must be the goal of our state elected leaders as we fight on a national level to ensure that we have Medicare for all. Thank you.
Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote!
Let the people vote.
Let the people vote. Let me ask you something. Is mental health an issue that our state leadership has identified as a priority recently? Has anyone heard any discussion about mental health? What about substance use disorder? Opiates. It seems like they want to make progress on this issue. But an often overlooked aspect of this discussion is how important health insurance is for getting mental health treatment in Texas. My name is Greg Hanch. I'm Interim Executive Director of NAMI Texas, which is the Texas affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I want you all to know that Texans with health insurance are nearly 50% more likely to receive treatment for mental illness or substance use disorder compared to Texans who lack insurance. A huge number of the over 600,000 Texans without health insurance have experienced mental illness or a substance use disorder during the previous year. There are over 400,000 Texans with mental health or substance use challenges who could enroll in health insurance if state leaders accepted Medicaid expansion funding. It's time to put this on the ballot and let these Texans with mental illness and substance use disorder access the right care at the right time. Put it on the ballot! 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 lady is going to share her story about how this issue affects her.
If I can get this mic to my face, I will.
Whoa.
There it goes. Literally. Hi, my name is Madeline Feller, and I'm a resident here in Austin, Texas. I'm here today as an advocate for mentally ill community members, like myself, who find ourselves in the Medicaid coverage gap. I hope sharing my story will provide insight into the lives and experiences of those of us left behind by the lack of Medicaid funding. When I was 19 years old, my mother removed me from her insurance plan as retaliation for leaving home. Around this same time, I fell into a near-fatal depressive spiral. I was forced to drop out of college and move in with my father in Louisiana to seek help. Due to my lack of coverage, it took over 6 months to find a doctor who diagnosed me with bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. He suggested that I apply for Medicaid, which was immediately granted to me. When I moved to Texas, I was denied this coverage, much to my surprise. This caused much of my progress to grind to a halt. In the first few months in Austin, I went to the emergency room twice for easily treated conditions and nearly ran out of medication for want of finding a psychiatrist. These bills have put me over $4,000 in debt at 20 years old, not to mention the hundreds of dollars that friends and family have spent on me to provide me with my necessary medications. The financial instability has been debilitating. I have been chronically unemployed due to my conditions, and the fear of falling ill with no way to pay is a paralyzing grip on my life. Being granted proper medical coverage would help dispel this fear and allow me and thousands of others like me to take the time spent waiting and begging for assistance to spend on other things like family and recovery and growth. Thank you very much.
Dr. Cedric Dark joins us from Houston. He's an emergency room doctor.
Morning, everybody. Morning. So 4 states, we've heard, Maine, Idaho, Utah, Nebraska, they all voted in the past couple of years to expand Medicaid by ballot measure. So why don't we let the voters in Texas decide? There are over 1 million Texans who should have coverage, but they don't because our legislature has refused to accept the Medicaid expansion. And you know what happens when people go without coverage? They often skip care, right? We just heard about that. So as an emergency physician, I eventually will see all of them in the ER when their conditions get really unbearable. And one common example that I like to bring up to people is pretty tragic, but easily avoidable if we just would expand Medicaid. And that's seeing people that show up with metastatic cancer. So think about it, tumors that could have been found earlier in screening, such like mammograms, pap smears, colonoscopies. We looked at our own data at our own hospital, and we found that people that come in and have cancer, none of them that had primary care doctors came in with things that were easily screenable with, like colon cancer, prostate cancer, cervical cancer. And the reason why is because they all have these national screening protocols that exist. But you know what? You can't see a primary care doctor if you don't have coverage, right? Right. So if Texas chose to expand coverage to those 1 million people, we could save 1,200 Texans' lives. And the reason why is this. When they looked at what happened in Massachusetts, when they expanded their coverage, they found out for every 830 people that got coverage, 1 life was saved. We should do the same thing here to help save some lives. That's why we're here today, right? We want to ask the Texas legislature to expand coverage and get out the way.
Hi everyone, my name is Fedora Galasso and I'm with Young Invincibles. We're an advocacy organization fighting for young people's economic opportunity and elevating their voices in the process. Since our founding in 2009, we've been fighting to expand access to comprehensive health care, since we know that young people are the ones who historically have had the highest uninsured rate compared to all other age groups. Here in Texas, things look even worse for young people. Texas currently has the highest uninsured rate of any state and the highest total number of uninsured young adults compared to any other state. 25%, that's 1 in every 4 young person aged 18 to 34, lacks health care coverage. Texas has left money on the table for 5 years, refusing to expand Medicaid and provide life-saving health care to hundreds of thousands of residents. Young people can no longer wait. The time has come to join the other 36 states across the nation and finally expand Medicaid to improve. And please join me in welcoming Marjorie Gonzalez, a member of Young Invincibles, to share her story.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marjorie Gonzalez. I was born and raised by a single mother in Louisville, Texas, and I'm a first-generation college student at the University of Texas at Austin. Today, I am here to use my voice to speak up on the difficulty of accessing healthcare for low-income individuals and to ask that you support us in expanding Medicaid in Texas. When I turned 18, I fell into the coverage gap, and this will be my 4th year without health insurance. Just a few weeks away from earning my bachelor's degree, I can assure you that navigating college without health coverage has been almost as difficult as navigating college as a first-generation student. Despite its importance, I have had to choose other basic necessities over my own health. My part-time income only covers my daily living expenses as a full-time student, and paying for healthcare would mean not being able to pay for utilities or for groceries. Even though I live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, it is still incredibly difficult to access this basic human right. The Texas Constitution calls us, the state, to provide for common defense and welfare of the Texas people. It is our duty as Texans to ensure the welfare of the people of Texas, and adequate health coverage is a part of it. Texas representatives, Texas senators, and the people of Texas, our common law urges us to expand Medicaid now.
Now,
Good morning. I'm Judy Bryant. I'm from Dallas, and I'm the field organizer for Texas Alliance for Retired Americans. I am very proud that Senator Nathan Johnson was Tara endorsed and worked for, and Senator Johnson is my senator. Really, really proud of that fact. Tara wants to give Texans the right to vote on Medicaid expansion because, as you've heard, there are so many people, over 1 million Texans, who are in the coverage gap. And many of those folks are seniors who don't yet qualify for Medicare. And they very often have chronic conditions, life-threatening conditions, and some of them could even die because they don't have health care. That is absolutely not acceptable. Therefore, yes, and very wrong. This is our Tara Austin president, Jack McCabe, and our state Tara president, Tony Padilla. And we are so proud to be here. We want to say, let Texas vote to expand Medicaid. It's only right.
Medicaid expansion, yeah. What do we want? Medicaid expansion. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Medicaid expansion. When do we want it?
Now. Hey, I'm Dennis Burrell with the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities. We support this. You know, I'm often told, all those people with disabilities are in traditional Medicaid, but actually, many Texans with disabilities have a little bit less severe disabilities. Chronic illness is not moving forward that much. They need to be helped before they get sick, before their disabilities advance. And you know what else? I've heard this talked about a little bit. Economic opportunities. Healthcare industry is one of the few that actually hire a lot of people with disabilities, which have twice the unemployment rate. So how about that? Healthcare for people with disabilities and jobs for people with disabilities, all on the federal dime. Thank you. Let the people vote.
Let the people vote. Let the people vote.
Our company's rounds are working with CDN and CGN, the social media videos for their pages.
Good morning. My name is the Reverend Crystal Leedy, an associate pastor at University Presbyterian Church here in Austin, Texas, and I am on the board of Texas Impact. People of faith are my community, and I am also a proud native Texan. Texas is my community. Medicaid expansion is something that people of faith care deeply about. Each week we have hundreds of people receiving charity from our churches. We are of course happy to help them. Jesus Christ gives us direct commands to help the poor and the suffering.
Yes.
However, I speak with our volunteers every day and they are tired because the needs are too great. We wish that we could help more to get to the heart of the problem. We know that a $35 check is not going to pay the rent for a month in Austin, Texas, but sometimes it's all that we can give. As we attempt to make a dent in these basic needs of people, we know that many times there are bigger problems. Medical bills are the last to be paid, especially if you're trying to feed your family. If you can't meet your basic needs, then you're not going to be able to pay that bill from the hospital. This is a community problem. We do what we can at our churches to help in our community, but this is a community problem, and so we should let our community vote on it. We owe that to each other, to vote for the marginalized. Jesus had a lot to say about the care of people. Faith communities have a lot to say about the care of people. And the people know their own needs. As communities of faith, they come to us, and we cannot do enough. So let the people be the ones that vote, so that the people of faith who experience these marginalized people in our communities each day can vote for compassion, for hope, and for care of all people. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. We need action today. So if you care, then let the people vote.
Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote!
I could not think of a better closing to this program than what we just heard, a reminder of all of our humanity. I just want to thank everybody who has stood in the cold, freezing cold for the last hour, and every volunteer that stood along this windy corridor and held up this sign. Every piece of this rally would not have been possible without you all. Thank you so much. And now we're going to take this message to legislators right now and tell each office why we want Medicaid expansion and they should let the people vote. Thank you so much for coming out, and for everybody who's here, head to the table to my right to get your flyers to deliver to the members. Thank you so much.